Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Tonight, I wanted to continue in the series of preseason games that actually matter to me, which means that I'm not going to be reviewing teams like Oklahoma City. I might touch on the Utah Jazz maybe just once or twice, but I really don't care about teams that don't matter. I also don't care about teams that are dysfunctional. So the teams that I'm going to be reviewing are the ones that I actually feel like are going to make a difference in terms of competing in the NBA in this coming season. And so with this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Toronto Raptors versus the Boston Celtics. I thought this was a great game. I thought it was very competitive. I thought you saw a lot of aspects of both teams' strengths. They have very few weaknesses. It was extremely competitive. Both teams defend at a high level. Both are very well coached. But I think the subtle differences that I was able to see between the two, I think are going to be interesting to see how they play out throughout the regular season and going into the playoffs. Let's just say, first and foremost, that the Toronto Raptors are going to have a strength in numbers type approach, meaning that it's not going to be as built around one or two guys trying to do the dominant amount of playmaking for the rest of the team members. It's not going to be centered around one or two guys trying to impose their will on a defense and forcing everyone to adjust from them, right? They're moving the ball around. Pascal's creating for himself. Fred Van Vliet's creating. You have OG try to create Scotty, of course. You've got Gary Trent Jr. even creating looks for himself. But I will say something that I was kind of concerned about was it almost seemed that they were a little bit too reliant upon all five guys doing a lot of playmaking. Now, this may have been intentional, and these are the things that you always got to keep in mind when you watch a preseason game. Sometimes a coach creates a very specific scheme to see a very specific style and how it will measure up against a team that they anticipate seeing in the playoffs. They may not be rolling out their general offensive game plan as much as what they want to specifically take a look at. And so what I saw was a lack of off-ball movement, a lack of passing the ball around and really zipping it around and trying to create through ball movement and player movement, as much as I saw them trying to create one-on-one and hopefully drawing an extra defender, kicking the ball out or getting into the paint and getting to the rim, right? Now there's nothing wrong with this style of play, but I will say this, that it's not always as effective throughout the course of a game because it can get pretty exhausting having to continuously create one-on-one each and every play. Not only that, but it makes you a little bit predictable. And in some cases, they didn't have a distinct advantage in trying to create. Like when OG Anunoby would try to create against a Jason Tatum, right? Or a guy trying to create against a Jaylen Brown. They didn't have necessarily a clear advantage, even though they were able to create that advantage because of their size and their skill level, right? But taking two, three, four, five dribbles to get into the paint to try to create a shot is not a very effective way to run your offense. And I found Toronto a little bit too reliant upon that style of play. Now, like I said, it could be circumstantial. This is what they were trying to take a look at, but it's to say that's something that I noticed. Something else that I noticed, let's say about Boston. Boston, I actually really did appreciate how they were moving the ball around. You saw a level of continuity that I was really impressed by, that the guys are really bought into the system, bought into their roles, and you can see guys just playing it to perfection. And this is what really happens when you have a team that makes a deep run into the playoffs multiple years. You know, they trust each other, they understand each other, they know where each other likes the ball, and they generally tend to play within those roles maximally, meaning that they know what's expected. They know what they're working on throughout the offseason to maximize that role, and guys already have a clear understanding of it and what to expect. In the Toronto Raptors situation, I found that they were still kind of getting acclimated to the different developing talents that each player was actually building upon. Like Pascal has gotten better, Scotty has gotten better, OG has gotten better, Gary Trent Jr. has gotten better, Fred has gotten better, Precious Achua has gotten better, right? All these different guys who are very talented, who are going to get a lot of looks, right? Strength in numbers. You got multiple guys doing a dominant amount of the playmaking, right? But because of their advancements and their growth, guys are having to adjust to what they can do now that they didn't used to be able to do back then, last season. And so it may take them a little bit more time to really get rolling as they get acclimated to each other and learn how to move off of one another, knowing what they're trying to do, what their tendencies are going to be, what types of looks that they can expect when each guy begins to play make for themselves. Now, like I said before, this is going to take time, but I think it's going to work out to their advantage by the time the second half of the season comes, because you're going to see some high level playmaking and shot creation from multiple guys, which is going to make them hard to game plan for, because they're going to be able to say, hey, you know what, let's exploit these mismatches in this moment when we have these defenders out there versus when they bring in the next guy. Now we'll have these advantages. So that's just something that I noticed there. Something that I also want to take a look at is I am a little bit concerned with the Toronto Raptors bench in terms of a facilitator. I thought Delano Banton was going to kind of get that position clearly. I thought it was going to be one of those like, okay, he's going to be the incumbent backup point guard because Malachi Flynn didn't look like he was winning that position. And, Dowden, I don't think he's ready for that at all. And so to say, I was expecting him to have that role, but he wasn't the primary guy brought off the bench. And so I'm really curious what it's going to look like when the bench unit comes in and you don't have Fred VanVleet or Scotty Barnes on the floor to do that facilitating. And even then, the highest amount of assists racked up was only 3 by those two, Scotty and Fred, right? And Fred actually struggled in this game a little bit. But it's to say that they're going to need somebody who can consistently do some playmaking and facilitating to make sure that guys are getting the ball easily and getting into their spots to be able to create or score easily. Once again, the point that I'm making here is easy. You want to score easy in the NBA. This allows you to preserve your energy for the defensive end so you can play at a high level. When you are having to work extremely hard to score on offense, it doesn't allow you the same amount of energy to put forth on the defensive end, and allows you to wear down easier throughout the game. But these are just some of the things that I'm noticing from this game. I thought it was a very entertaining game. It was a very telling game in terms of the amount of talent that was on the floor, and that both teams fully expect to be at the top of the East next season. Right now, from what I saw, I would say Boston is definitely ahead of where Toronto is at, but not by much. Not by much. And by the second half of the season, Toronto might be right there with them. But we'll see. I'm going to keep tabs on both of them as the preseason continues. And eventually I'm going to do my Eastern Conference rankings, and then we can talk some more about it then. Other than that, hit me in the comments section. Let me know what you think. What did you take away from this game? What are some things that interested you? What are some significant aspects that you think that I should have mentioned or that you agree with? But if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'm going to holler at y'all next time. Peace.